Predictably, this incident caused a bit of a shitstorm. For example, from 5 alcoholic drinks to gleefully chuck into an MRA's smug fucking face. Do I really need to say it again? He's not a fucking MRA. The article reads, whilst in Montreal, relentless shill for the legalization of rape, Roosh V got beer poured on him by a woman he thought himself in the midst of seducing. The party foul heard round the world has inspired Roosh's browskis in arms to rail against this unfettered defiance of women. A Voice for Men founder Paul Elam has decreed that a man might be justified in killing a woman for spilling her drink on him. We will look at Elam's article in a moment. But first let's look at a bit more of this article. We have thus been served another round of equal rights, equal lefts, this time with the tasteful lemon wedge garnish. It is fascism and Marxist decadence to say that men who believe women should accept rape and coercive relationships as a necessary burden to save the family unit shouldn't be in a fucking bar, where people trying to have a good time or let off steam or pointedly predated upon in an intoxicated state by bearded baby shits. The future perfect of Paul Elam is an angry, bitter white guy in every bar, waiting for a woman to bump into him or tip her glass too far to one edge so he can enact his righteous retribution for female kind's disrespect to the righteous Roosh V, who doesn't think rape should be a crime but reported the beer spilling to Montreal police. And the script of polite discourse commands that we of visibility and voice say, don't buy into the game, don't escalate. The onus to manage and navigate the excesses of male violence is again put on women. Well, take the biggest Sharpie you have and write, fuck that shit on the script and send it back to the writer's room. While we wax and wane the nuances of aggression to patiently explain why throwing a cold drink at a dude's face is not the same as men physically sexually assaulting women or encouraging other men to do the same, women are meanwhile targeted for harassment and violence by men. If a dude who thinks legalizing rape on private property would keep women in line comes into the bar you're drinking in, if he puts his hands on you without checking for consent or makes unwanted lewd comments at you, pouring your drink on him can be an effective means of self-defense and attracting the attention of other people in the bar to the aggressor. Roosh V literally trains dudes on how to corner and encircle women. Do not give me any of this, just walk away from it, bullshit. The poured drink will inevitably fall into the purview of fashion, much like the date rape drug detecting nail polish and feminine-colored rape whistle. The drink you pour on your potential rapist will have implications of your taste. Okay, so let's look at her citation for the A Voice for Men founder Paul Elam has decreed that a man might be justified in killing a woman for spilling her drink on him, comment. Can you guess where the link takes us? Go on, have a guess? Now logically, you would think that the link would take us to the actual article by Paul Elam. That would make sense, right? If you are going to cite something it should be the actual thing you are talking about, right? But come on guys, we've all been playing this game long enough to know she's not going to do that. In fact I'd bet that she hasn't even read Paul's article. So where do you think she might link to? Where do they link to 9 times out of 10? Come on. This one should be easy. We hunted the mammoth, of course. It's nearly always we hunted the mammoth. So let's have a look at what Man Boobs Futrell has to say. Did Paul Elam actually say that a man might be justified in killing a woman for spilling a drink on him? Let's have a look. Futrell's article is titled, MRA Paul Elam, if a feminist pours a drink on me, I'd be justified in killing her. Wow. I wonder if Paul actually said that, or is this just more propaganda? Can you guess considering the source? Don't worry, we'll look at Paul's article in a moment, but first let's read some more of Futrell's hit piece. Apparently jealous of all the media attention being paid to the Montreal misadventures of PUA shitweasel Roosh V, the recipient of an unwanted beer bath at the hands of an angry feminist this past Saturday night, MRA shitweasel Paul Elam has announced to the world that if any lady feminists try that with him, he'll punch their lights out. Hell, he adds, he might even kill them. And he thinks he would be completely justified in doing so. Elam, the founder and, CEO of A Voice for Men, describes himself as non-violent, and his site as doggedly anti-violence. but he wants to warn all drink-holding feminists who might now or in the future be in his vicinity not to mistake my nonviolence for pacifism. Being an advocate for nonviolent change does not mandate anyone to be a punching bag, Elam writes. And while self-defense needs to be proportional to the threat, he argues, it's safe for MRAs and PUAs and anyone else who dissents honestly from feminism, to assume that if a feminist tosses a drink at you, they are literally trying to kill you. Okay, so there are some fairly serious claims here, and Man Boobs Futrell has made Paul look a little bit like a raving lunatic. Well, okay, a lot like a raving lunatic. So I guess our next stop is Paul's article, to see if any of this is actually true. Paul's article is titled, "Don't Mistake My Nonviolence for Pacifism." As feminism sinks into irrelevance, its more dogmatic adherents have become increasingly violent. This is particularly true in Canada, where feminists now have quite a track record of physical attacks and violent disruptions against anyone who disagrees with them. Their violence is supported and enabled by the Canadian government as well as the media. All this is very concerning, especially since it is emanating from a country known for maintaining a peaceful society. And now we have an even more contentious situation developing with PUA Roosh in that country. Since entering there, he has been threatened repeatedly and assaulted by a woman throwing a drink on him. Twitter is alive right now with Canadian feminists urging people to do him further harm, even as far as to set him on fire. We'll get to the "set him on fire" part in a moment. Let's just say it's hyperbole on Paul's behalf. Next. Full disclosure here. To say I am not a fan of Roosh is an understatement. As I have said before, I see the man as a huckster, someone who manipulates men's insecurities about women. A mere plaid jacket and cheap cigar away from running a used car sales lot. That, however, is not the important matter at hand. For the record, I totally agree with Paul here. Next. The fact is that Roosh, and people like him, are well on their way to being placed in real physical danger from die-hard feminists reacting to the curtain starting to fall on their sick ideology. When I say, people like him, I am talking about anyone who dissents honestly from feminism. That includes me and a lot of other people in the MHRM who are braving the shift in social consciousness with our real faces and names out there. Once again, this is a fair point. I keep my personal identity private because I don't trust our opposition. Obviously not everyone on the other side is a raving lunatic intent to do us harm, but you'd be crazy to think there aren't at least some. And it's probably unlikely they would try to do me physical harm, it's more likely they would try to attack me through work or something like that. But you never know. And I'd prefer not to have an outraged white knight show up at my front door. But it's only fair to point out that these type of people aren't only in feminism. To some extent they exist in all groups that feel strong emotions about a cause or issue. You find them in both religious and atheist groups. They also exist in all the spectrum of political beliefs, left to right. They exist in gay rights, black rights, animal rights, and yes, unfortunately, even men's rights groups. They are the type of person who gets so emotionally involved that the cause is everything. Their opposition is the great evil, everything is black and white without any shades of gray, and then ends always justify the means. At best these people are an annoyance, at worst they are a very real threat. And for some reason, when it comes to feminism, they are excused. Next. In fact, we have been in the threat zone far longer than Roosh. As the craziness intensifies, and it certainly will, feminists will become even more violent and dangerous. Individuals who disagree with them and say so publicly may need to take stock. For the most part I agree with Paul here, although I probably would have added the word "some" before the word "feminist." I think most feminists are well-meaning, and really only have a superficial understanding of the movement. You know, the type to read you the dictionary definition of feminism, as if it's an argument. And I doubt that these type of feminists would be involved in acts of violence. But there are most definitely those who will.
Here's your self-defense, sir. Here's your self-defense, sir. Here's your self-defense, sir. Get the fuck off me! Get your hand off my breast now! Back up, sitter.
Get your hands off my friend! Now!
Touching your right. Stop touching your right. Who did that?
Let me point out, as I'm pro-choice, I don't agree with the position of the protester you just saw in the clip. But I do support his right to free speech, as well as his right not to have a false sexual assault claim thrown at him. As you can see from the clip, when she was accusing him of grabbing her breast, his hand was nowhere near her breast, in fact he was holding something. And obviously I support his right not to be physically assaulted. Her shove made him fall from a fairly high height, and he hit his head on the concrete. It actually could have killed him. And in case you are wondering, the woman in the video was arrested, and went to court over the assault. Plea deal settles charge in attack on Evangelist. A Middle Tennessee State University co-ed student has entered a plea agreement on a charge that she assaulted an evangelist on campus last year. The Daily News Journal of Murfreesboro reports that Michaela Morales, 23, received nearly a year of probation, must perform 24 hours of community service and must pay preacher John McGlone $80 in restitution. McGlone, who is with Pinpoint Evangelism, based in Adair County, and others from the ministry were speaking on an outdoor knoll at MTSU on October 27, 2009 when a confrontation ensued after some students perceived his message as hateful. And of course there are those who defend her actions. From terrible anti-social justice arguments, on Tumblr. Witnesses said a religious demonstrator incited an all-out riot in the middle of the MTSU campus. In the conflict, Michaela Morales claims she was sexually assaulted, and she was the one arrested. Morales, a junior at MTSU, insists she was merely trying to break up a fight when she wound up tangling with a man named Don McGlone, an evangelist, turned antagonist, according to witnesses. And here is the footage again of her trying to break up the fight.
Get off my friend! Now!
Back up, sitter.
Get your hands off my friend! Now!
Touching your right.
It was getting scary, said eyewitness and Morales' boyfriend George Vasquez. He was being very offensive to everybody. And as an atheist who is pro-choice, in all likelihood I would have found his arguments offensive as well. That doesn't excuse the actions of Morales. Next. On the section of campus known as the Knoll, eyewitnesses said Don McGlone was not preaching as much as he was reaching. He called me a homo man, a sissy and a faggot, said MTSU student and eyewitness Zach Kraft. Morales, a 23-year-old student from Bethpage, was arrested and charged by campus police. From what we saw, we felt that she crossed the line, said Lieutenant Jim Fan Guy, MTSU Police Department. She was making comments that she was being inappropriately touched. However, the video showed otherwise. Investigators said cell phone video of the scuffle shows Morales shoving the preacher man, who toppled from his makeshift platform. In all reality, I'm not a volatile person. I don't resort to violence, but it was ridiculous, said Morales. I didn't do anything wrong. Morales is charged with assault, but spectators corroborate her claim that she is a victim.